There is someone in your life who is lying to you right now. Not a stranger, not some distant figure you will never meet. Someone close, someone who looks you in the eye, says exactly what you want to hear, and means none of it. And here is what makes it worse. Part of you already knows. You have felt it, that quiet unease in your chest, the way their words sound right but land wrong. You have noticed the small inconsistencies, the stories that shift just slightly each time they are told. But you talked yourself out of it, because doubt is uncomfortable, because you wanted to believe them. The Stoics had a word for this. They called it fantasia, the impression that arrives before judgment. And they understood something most people never learn. Deception does not succeed because liars are clever. It succeeds because we are willing. Today you learn to stop being willing. Think about the last time you were deceived. Not a small lie, a real one. The kind that rewrote your understanding of a relationship, a friendship, a partnership. The kind that made you look back over weeks or months and realize you had been living inside someone else's fiction. What did you feel when you discovered it? Anger, certainly. Betrayal. But underneath all of that, something quieter and far more painful. You felt foolish, because the signs were there. They were always there. And you saw them, even if you did not let yourself acknowledge what they meant. This is the cruelty of deception. It does not just steal your trust. It steals your confidence in your own perception. It makes you question whether you can read people at all. And this is precisely the wound that keeps you vulnerable to the next liar who comes along. Epictetus understood this cycle 2,000 years ago. He observed that we are disturbed not by things, but by our judgments about things. The problem is not that liars exist. They always have, and they always will. The problem is that we override our own judgment to accommodate them. You ignore the contradiction in their story because confronting it feels impolite. You accept the explanation that makes no sense because rejecting it would mean accepting something painful. You give the benefit of the doubt again and again and again until doubt is all you have left. The Stoics would say that this is not kindness. This is a failure of discernment. And discernment, unlike trust, is something that is entirely within your control. The Stoic approach to deception begins not with watching other people more closely, but with understanding your own mind more honestly. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, never meant for anyone else to read, a single line that changes everything about how we think about lies. He wrote, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." What he meant was this: consensus is not truth. Popularity is not proof. Just because someone speaks with confidence does not mean they speak with honesty. The Stoics developed a rigorous framework for evaluating impressions, what they called the discipline of assent. When an impression arrives, a claim, a story, someone's version of events, you do not simply accept it. You hold it at arm's length, you examine it, you ask, is this consistent, is this coherent? Does this align with what I have already observed? This is not cynicism, it is clarity. Seneca wrote extensively about the distinction between a friend and a flatterer. He warned that the flatterer tells you what you want to hear, while the friend tells you what you need to hear. But here's the subtlety Seneca understood. We often prefer the flatterer, not because we are stupid, but because truth is heavy and flattery is light. A liar succeeds because they offer you the lighter version of reality. They tell you what you already wish were true. They confirm your hopes. They soothe your anxieties. And because their words feel good, you lower your guard. Modern psychology calls this confirmation bias, the tendency to accept information that reinforces what we already believe or desire. The Stoics did not have that term, but they grasped the principle perfectly. They knew that the mind is not a neutral observer. It is an active participant in its own deception. This is why Epictetus insisted that the first step toward wisdom is recognizing what you do not know. When someone presents you with a claim, the untrained mind says, that sounds right. The Stoic mind says, let me see. And what it looks for is not a single dramatic tell. No liar reveals themselves with one grand mistake. What it looks for is a pattern, the slow accumulation of small inconsistencies that, taken together, reveal a character that does not match the mask. Jung would later call this the shadow, the hidden part of the personality that a person refuses to acknowledge. The liar's shadow leaks through in micro-expressions, in the stories they tell about others, in the way they handle being questioned. The Stoic does not need a polygraph. They need only patience and the willingness to see what is actually there. The first and most reliable signal of deception is the gap between words and behavior. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." The emphasis is on action, on what a person does, not what they say they are. A liar will tell you they value honesty while withholding information. They will declare loyalty while quietly positioning themselves to leave. They will promise support and then be absent at every moment it matters. The Stoic practice here is simple but demanding. Track actions, not declarations. When someone makes a claim about their character, do not accept it. File it, then watch. Over days, over weeks, compare the claim against the evidence. Not with suspicion, with attentiveness. If their actions consistently match their words, you have found integrity. If their actions consistently contradict their words, you have found your answer. The gap between speech and conduct is the most honest thing a liar ever shows you, but you have to be willing to look at it. The second signal is narrative instability. Truth has a specific quality. It is consistent. Not because honest people have perfect memories, but because they are drawing from something real. The details may vary slightly in emphasis, but the architecture of a true account does not change. A fabricated story, however, is built from imagination, and imagination is unstable. Listen for the detail that was vivid last week and absent today. Listen for the timeline that contracts or expands depending on who is in the room. Listen for the moment when you ask a simple clarifying question and the entire tone shifts, when calm becomes defensive, when openness becomes evasion. Seneca advised, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Do not waste yours reconstructing someone else's shifting story to make it make sense. If the story keeps changing, it was never true. Your instinct will tell you this. The question is whether you will listen. The third signal is how a person responds to honest inquiry. An honest person, when asked a direct question, gives a direct answer. They may be uncomfortable. They may pause, but they engage with the question. A liar does something different. They redirect. They answer a question you did not ask. They turn the focus back to you, your tone, your motives, your trust issues. They make the act of questioning feel like an act of aggression. This is a technique modern psychology calls DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. The liar denies the behavior, attacks the person questioning them, and then positions themselves as the one being wronged. Epictetus would recognize this immediately. He taught that the things within our control include our opinions, our desires, and our judgments. When someone attempts to destabilize your judgment by making you feel guilty for exercising it, they are reaching for something that is not theirs to take. Notice the deflection. Name it, even if only to yourself, and understand that a person who cannot tolerate an honest question is a person who cannot afford to give an honest answer. No single inconsistency proves deception. People misspeak, people forget, people are imperfect. But the Stoic method is not about catching someone in a single lie. It is about recognizing a pattern of behavior that reveals the character. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each person's soul is dyed the color of their thoughts. Over time, the color shows. The liar who deflects once may be having a bad day. The liar who deflects every time you approach the truth is showing you their architecture. Your task is not to play detective. Your task is to hold your own perceptions with enough respect that you do not dismiss them when they become inconvenient. The Stoics understood that truth is rarely comfortable and rarely dramatic. It reveals itself slowly through the quiet accumulation of evidence, if you are willing to let it. So what do you do with this? First, commit to tracking behavior over time, not just evaluating moments in isolation. Keep a private record if you need to, not out of paranoia, but out of self-respect. When the pattern becomes clear, trust the pattern. Second, when something feels wrong, do not rationalize the feeling away. Sit with it. Ask yourself, what specifically triggered this discomfort? The feeling is data. Treat it as such. Third, ask direct, simple questions and observe the response. Not to trap anyone, but to see how they handle directness. A person's relationship with honest inquiry tells you everything about their relationship with honesty. And finally, remember that seeing a liar clearly is not the same as confronting them. You do not owe every dishonest person a confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop believing them, quietly, privately, and completely. The Stoics were not interested in winning arguments. They were interested in living in accordance with truth. And sometimes that means walking away from someone whose words you can no longer afford to trust. There's a particular kind of strength that has nothing to do with argument, nothing to do with proof, nothing to do with convincing anyone else of what you know. It is the strength of seeing clearly and refusing to unsee. Epictetus said that no one can take your will from you. No liar, no matter how skilled, can override your perception if you choose to honor it. The world is full of people who will tell you what you want to hear. Your work is not to stop them. Your work is to stop needing it. See clearly, trust your observations, let the pattern speak, and when it does, believe it. If you are beginning to recognize patterns of deception in your relationships, and you want a safe, private space to process what you are seeing, BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online, on your schedule. You can use the link in the description to get started. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And in the next video, we break down 5 specific manipulation tactics and the Stoic counter to each one. You will want to see that. Be sovereign.